"The bank needs your signature," my mother said, sliding the papers beside my untouched birthday cake. My father stared into his wine, while my sister sat across from me pretending to be fragile. They believed canceling my 50th birthday had left me tired, guilty, and easy to control. But I had already read their emails. How far would they go once they realized I knew everything? The paper the bank never needed. My father's fork clicked against his plate. The grocery store cake leaned beneath 51 candles. My mother called it a fresh start. My sister wore an oversized gray sweater, her face bare, her shoulders folded inward. My father poured wine without meeting my eyes. Then my mother slid a folder across the table. "It's routine, just something the bank needs." 3 yellow tabs marked my signature lines. I placed my hand on the folder. "Did you read it?" I asked my father. He stared at his glass. "Your mother understands these things better than I do." That answer once made me doubt myself. That night, it only showed how long he had chosen not to know. I pushed the folder back. "The bank doesn't need my signature," I said. My mother froze. "You do." 3 weeks earlier, I had stood in my kitchen checking the guest list for my 50th birthday dinner. 36 names. A private room in a historic hotel. Place cards, menus, and relatives who had promised to show up. Then my mother called. "We're canceling. Your sister needs us." Her boyfriend had left her. My mother said the entire family had to stay with her until she felt safe. Before I could answer, my father texted, "You're the strong one. You'll understand." I did not argue. I looked at the place cards and understood something I had avoided for years. In many families, the most dependable child becomes the least protected one. People call it maturity. What they mean is that your endurance belongs to everyone else. I called the hotel. The deposit was not refundable, so I asked them to serve the dinner to caregivers from a local hospice center. Then I changed my banking passwords, packed 1 suitcase, and drove toward my grandfather's lake house in the Blue Ridge Mountains. An hour outside Richmond, my phone showed a voicemail from an unknown number. A man said, "Control of the Franklin Lake Trust transferred to you this morning. Do not sign anything your family gives you." Grandpa knew I would come. I listened to the voicemail 3 times before I reached the lake road. By the 4th, I was no longer wondering whether the man had called the wrong person. I was wondering what my mother expected me to sign. The house was nothing like the ruin she had described. The porch light worked. The heat came on. The taxes and insurance were current. Inside, it smelled of old wood and fireplace ash. My grandfather's reading chair still faced the lake. Beside it, a glass jar held brushes gone stiff with age. He had been the only person who asked what I wanted. He encouraged me to paint. He once warned that kindness should not be given to people who treated it like an obligation. The next morning, Mr. Green arrived with the trust papers. Control had passed to me on my 50th birthday. I now controlled the lake house, 32 wooded acres, and 51% of the voting rights in the Shoreline Company. My mother had only been allowed to manage ordinary expenses until that day. She could pay taxes, insurance, and repairs. She could not move trust money for personal use. A resort company had offered to buy the waterfront several times. My grandfather refused. He wanted the lake protected and hoped it might become a place for artists. I asked why no one had told me. Mr. Green said the harder question was what my mother had done while I remained uninformed. I had believed her because admitting she might lie to me hurt more than accepting her explanations. Some people do not take your property at once. They keep you in the dark until you sign away control. "What did she do with it?" I asked. He opened another folder and pointed to 4 years of bank transfers. "These are the ones we have verified. So far, the total is $286,000. The dependable child became the backup account. The next morning, Priya Shah arrived with a laptop and 2 legal pads. She traced the $286,000 one transfer at a time. A roof repair had been paid to a company with no business license. Consulting fees went to my sister's online wellness company, even though it had no paying clients. Trust money covered her apartment, car payments, and a wedding venue deposit made before she was engaged. Some of it also funded charity events my mother publicly claimed as her own donations. Each transaction opened an old memory. The art program I was told we could not afford. The savings I gave up after my sister fell behind on her debts. The gallery opening I missed because my family said she could not be left alone. The apartment I co-signed, then paid for after she walked away. I had seen those moments as separate disappointments. Priya placed them beside the bank records, and the pattern became impossible to ignore. The withdrawals appeared just before estate meetings, voting deadlines, and new offers to buy the shoreline. My mother called it helping the child who needed more. My father called it keeping the peace. In practice, my sister's instability was rewarded, while my steadiness became something the family could spend. I had helped keep that system alive, not because I created it, but because I kept cleaning up the damage. If it was going to stop, I had to stop being the place where every consequence landed. Priya opened one final folder. The subject line read, "Sunday paperwork." The first message was from my sister. "Are you sure she'll sign? Before I open the rest, tell me where you are listening from and what time it is there." I always want to know how far a story like this has traveled. They did not need me to comfort my sister. The email was still open on Priya's screen when I read my mother's reply. "She'll be upset, but she always comes back." The next message was even clearer. "Let her spend the weekend taking care of you. We'll put the paperwork in front of her Sunday night." My sister asked what would happen if I actually read it. My mother answered, "She never wants a fight. Tell her dad's retirement depends on it." The breakup was real. That was the part that hurt in a different way. My sister had truly been left, and she was frightened. But she had agreed to use that fear as a tool. Harold explained the document in plain language. It would extend my mother's control for 5 more years. It would label the old withdrawals as family distributions, limit my right to challenge them, and allow negotiations with the resort company to begin. It would not take the property out of my name that night. It would do something quieter. It would make every future fight harder, slower, and more expensive. That was when I understood what they really needed. They did not need me to comfort my sister. They needed the version of me that would exist after 2 days of comforting her, tired, guilty, desperate to keep the peace, too worn down to read the small print. For years, silence had been how I survived my family. Now it became something else, a strategy. I called my mother. She immediately asked where I was. I said I needed a few days. Her voice softened at once. She told me to come home when I was ready. We would have a small birthday dinner. Just family. Then she added that there were a few routine papers we should handle. I told her I would think about it. When the call ended, I turned to Harold. "Freeze everything she can still touch." 3 weeks, I let them believe I was coming back. For 3 weeks, I let my family believe I was calming down. Harold sent formal notice that my mother's authority had ended. The bank blocked large transfers. Priya copied every email, message, and account record, then stored them in several places. We replaced the financial manager who had worked with my mother. An independent appraiser documented the land. Harold filed a conservation notice so no sale could move forward while the records were reviewed. I also met with a local land trust. For the first time, I saw the property as something other than land my family wanted to sell. I imagined studios in the old workshop, small cabins under the trees, a place for people who had spent years caring for others, then woke up believing their own dreams had expired. My mother called every few days and asked whether I had calmed down. My sister offered a soft apology that never mentioned the emails. My father said he did not want money to destroy the family. I did not argue. "I'll come for dinner," I said. Financial independence was not only about having money. It was knowing who could reach it. It was reading before signing. It was having advice from someone who did not benefit from your confusion. People often think strength must be loud. Sometimes it looks like changing a password, calling a lawyer, and no longer explaining yourself to people committed to misunderstanding you. Before I left, I found the watercolor set my grandfather had bought me years ago. I opened it and drew one line across a clean page. It was not beautiful, but my hand did not shake. That evening, I put on a navy suit, placed the evidence in a leather bag, and drove to my parents' house. Harold parked 2 blocks away. "The bank does not need my signature, you do." My mother opened the door before I could knock. She held me too long, as if the hug could decide who was forgiving whom. The dining room looked almost festive. Wine glasses caught the light. A grocery store cake waited beneath 51 candles. "We will just celebrate next year early," my mother said. My father smiled and called me his strong girl. Once that phrase would have softened me. Now it only proved he still believed my strength existed for everyone but me. My sister sat in an oversized sweater, both hands around a glass of water. She said she was sorry for needing everyone at the wrong time. She did not apologize for the birthday they had canceled. I had not come for an apology. I had come to see how far they would go while they believed I knew nothing. Before dessert, my mother placed a folder beside my plate. It is routine. Just something the bank needs. 3 yellow tabs marked the signature lines. She handed me my father's pen. I turned several pages slowly. "Did you read this?" I asked him. He looked down at his wine. "Your mother understands these things better than I do." That was not my question. My sister shifted in her chair. "Why are you making this hostile?" I opened my leather bag. I removed the transfer agreement, the transaction report, the printed emails, and the bank notice confirming that my mother's access had been frozen. My sister stopped crying. My mother adjusted her napkin, then went still. For years, I had believed there must be some perfect combination of words that would make them understand what they had done. That night, I saw the truth. They had understood all along. They simply believed my understanding would never become action. I placed one finger beneath my mother's sentence. "She always comes back." Then I looked directly at her. "The bank does not need my signature," I said. I pushed the folder across the table. "You do." My father knew enough to ask. My mother studied the records and said the money had never been meant to sit untouched while my sister struggled. She called the apartment an emergency, the car a business expense, and the wedding venue an investment. My grandfather, she said, had created unnecessary divisions. She had only moved resources where they were needed most. Who decided her struggles mattered more than my future? I asked. When I asked whether she had planned to tell me, she answered, "You would have made it emotional." My sister stopped crying. She shoved her chair back and said I had not earned the lake. I had a steady job and savings. She needed a real beginning. "You did not need a beginning," I said. "You wanted mine." Some people see stability as permission to take more. My father lifted the emails and read one sentence aloud. "She always comes back." Then he asked whether my mother had planned the weekend. She said she had only wanted to avoid a fight. He insisted he had known nothing about the trust. I asked whether he knew my savings had covered my sister's debts, whether he knew I had co-signed her apartment, and whether he had ever checked the accounts. He said he thought my mother would replace the money. "Did you ever check?" He said nothing. "You did not know everything, but you knew enough to ask. You chose not to." I placed Harold's agreement on the table. They could provide every record, return what remained, surrender all claims, and admit the transfers were unauthorized. Otherwise, the evidence would go to the bank, civil court, and investigators. My mother asked whether I would really press charges against her. "I am reporting what you did. The prosecutor decides the rest." If you are still listening, please rate how satisfied you are in the comments below. Let me know you are still beside me. Your presence is my greatest encouragement as I continue toward the final part. I left the agreement on the table. 3 days later, my mother tried to transfer the family home into my sister's name. The mistake that made it more than a family matter. The night after I left, my father called Harold. He provided joint account statements, tax returns, loan records, and access to the document safe. He admitted signing papers without reading them because my mother called them routine. I wanted to believe someone had finally chosen honesty. 3 days later, my mother tried to transfer the family home into my sister's name. The house was already tied to a loan connected to my sister's wellness company. When the transfer request reached the bank, it triggered a fraud review. The transaction stopped before the deed changed hands. Harold asked the court for a temporary order. In plain English, my mother could not sell, transfer, or borrow against the house while the records were reviewed. Every related account was also ordered to preserve its files. Nothing could be deleted, nothing could be rewritten. My mother called and accused me of trying to make her lose her home. "I did not put the house at risk," I said. "You borrowed against it." She said families did not take one another to court. Families do not hide assets from one another either. After the call, I sat at my grandfather's desk and listened to the wall clock. I was not pleased. I was tired. Part of me had hoped she would return what she could, tell the truth, and stop before the damage spread. Instead, she tried to hide one more thing. People often reveal themselves most clearly after they are caught. Someone with a conscience tries to repair the harm. Someone who only regrets losing control searches for another hiding place. Within 6 weeks, the bank records began speaking for me. Once the numbers were placed side by side, the community my mother had spent years impressing began asking questions of its own. My mother's reputation was built with money that was not hers. Over the next 8 months, the financial report grew thicker. Most of the money had never supported the trust. 3 charities discovered that donations my mother publicly claimed as her own had come from trust accounts. Each organization asked for an explanation. Soon, she was asked to step away from their boards. My sister's creditors began calling. Her leased car was repossessed. The office for her wellness company closed after months without real income. The family house was placed into a sale plan so part of the missing money could be repaid. My father moved into a small apartment and filed for separation. None of it made me happy. For the first time, the consequences simply stayed with the people who had created them. My sister called from a number I did not recognize. She said she had nowhere to go. I told her to find work, sell what she still owned, and cooperate with the accountants. "How can you do this to your own sister?" she asked. "I'm not doing it to you," I said. "I've stopped doing it for you." Weeks later, my father came to the lake. "I should have stopped her," he said. Yes, he admitted that he had always believed my sister needed more help because I never fell apart. Not falling apart didn't mean I wasn't being harmed. He said he understood now. "You understand the consequences now. That isn't the same as understanding me then." His regret may have been sincere. But regret after exposure is not the same as conscience before it. I could recognize change without returning my trust. I did not know who my family would become after all of this. For the first time, I began wondering who I could become when I no longer spent my strength keeping them standing. My second life began by the lake. Once the shoreline was protected, I stopped seeing the property as something my family had almost taken. I started seeing what it could become. The old workshop became 2 studios. 6 small cabins were built between the trees without clearing the forest. We added a shared kitchen and an exhibition room facing the water. The work took years. I remember hammers on the roof, brushes across canvas, and quiet conversations drifting from the kitchen at night. The place felt alive. We called the first program the Strong One Residency. It was for people over 45 who had set aside creative work to care for aging parents, raise children alone, survive controlling marriages, or because they believed it was too late to begin again. At 50, I had thought too much of my life was already gone. The lake taught me otherwise. The second half of a life does not have to repeat the first. I began painting again after nearly 30 years. My first exhibition showed empty chairs, blurred family photographs, and dinner tables where one person always stood before the cake was cut. My father visited twice a year. Our relationship stayed polite and limited. My mother sent letters filled with blame. I did not answer. My sister moved through several jobs before finding steady office work. Each year, she repaid a little more. 5 years later, she wrote, "I knew Mom was taking something meant for you. I let myself believe you could survive it, because that made accepting it easier." I kept the letter, but I did not reply. An apology can be sincere and still not reopen the door. Forgiveness is private. Access must be earned through time and consistent choices. 10 years after my canceled birthday, Harold called. My grandfather had left one final instruction for my 60th birthday. He did not set them up. He gave them a choice. My father arrived first. He looked older than I remembered, smaller somehow, as if 10 years of consequences had settled into his shoulders. My sister came alone, dressed simply. My mother arrived last. No one hugged. Harold opened a laptop in my grandfather's old study. The room still smelled faintly of wood, paper, and fireplace ash. Then my grandfather appeared on the screen. He explained that he had created a separate fund worth nearly $1 million. Part of it was meant to support my parents in retirement. The rest was meant to help my sister build an independent life. There was only one condition. They had to respect my inheritance. They could not hide it, misuse trust money, pressure me to extend my mother's control, or try to sell the land without my consent. If they did, the fund would go to art and conservation. My grandfather looked directly into the camera. To my mother, he said, "You believed protecting one daughter required sacrificing the other." To my father, he said, Silence is still a decision. To my sister, he said, pain deserves compassion. It does not create ownership over someone else's life. Then he spoke to me. Their regret does not purchase your return. The screen went dark. My mother whispered, he set me up. My sister looked at her. No, he gave us a choice. My mother said everything she had done was for her. My sister answered quietly, you did not help me grow. You made sure I would always need you. Some people call a boundary a trap because they never expected to respect it, but a choice only feels like punishment when someone believes consequences should always belong to somebody else. My mother turned to me. Will you ever forgive me? Outside the study, nearly 200 people were waiting to celebrate my birthday. I did not lose my family. I stopped losing myself. My mother waited for an answer. I stopped organizing my life around that question years ago. I did not explain. She left before the celebration began. My father stayed near the back of the hall. Before leaving, he handed me a box. Inside was the place card from my canceled 50th birthday. I kept thinking there would be a way to repair that night, he said. There wasn't. He nodded. I know. For once, he did not ask me to make his regret easier. My sister found me beside the windows. She gave me an envelope with a payment toward what she owed. Then she told me she had been promoted. Congratulations, I said. After a moment, she asked whether we would ever be sisters again. We are sisters. That does not automatically make us close. She accepted the answer. No tears, no accusation, no emergency. That mattered more than a promise. Outside, nearly 200 people gathered beside the lake. Older students displayed paintings. Children pinned drawings to the walls. Former residents returned with stories about work they once believed they were too old to begin. When the birthday song started, no one watched the door. No one waited for a crisis. No one asked me to surrender my moment. 10 years earlier, I believed a canceled dinner had cost me my family. It had not. It exposed a family structure that survived only while I remained obedient. For years, they mistook my silence for permission. Silence became strength when I stopped using it to endure and started using it to choose. I did not win because they suffered. I won because I stopped helping them hurt me. I looked across the water as the note faded. I had not abandoned my family. I had finally stopped abandoning myself. Silence is not weakness. For years, my family mistook my silence for permission. They believed that because I did not scream, I would never fight back. But silence is not weakness. Sometimes it is the sound of someone watching, learning, and waiting until the truth can no longer be denied. I used to think dignity meant remaining calm while other people took whatever they wanted. I thought being the better person meant accepting the pain without making anyone uncomfortable. I was wrong. Dignity is not measured by how much mistreatment you can survive. It begins when you stop allowing someone else to decide how small you must become, so they can continue feeling important. I did not need my family to suffer as deeply as I had suffered. Their pain could not return the years, the opportunities, or the trust they had taken from me. Justice was enough. I did not win because I hurt them. I won because I finally stopped helping them hurt me. I also learned that family is not proven by a shared last name or a place on a birth certificate. It is proven through action. Family is the person who stays when you have nothing left to offer. It is the person who respects your happiness instead of treating it as a threat. It is the person who never asks you to disappear so they can feel loved. Were you satisfied with how I handled my family, or do you think I should have gone to the police sooner? Please rate this ending from 1 to 10 in the comments, and tell me what you would have done in my place. What do you think about her decision? Would you have handled things differently if you were in her place? Share your thoughts in the comments. I read every one, and your perspective may help someone else who is facing a similar choice. If this story gave you something to think about, please leave a like, share it with someone you care about, and subscribe so you do not miss the stories still to come. I will see you in the next story.